this meeting to order at 7 p.m.
Jason Nolan,
Yes.
John Koch,
Yes.
Jonathan Larson,
Yeah.
Dave Harris,
Yes.
Jonathan Gable,
Yes.
Sig Inger,
Yes.
Francie Miller.
Yes. Public comment and recognition of guests. We have one public comment.
Hello, my name is Amanda Schleifer. I have had a couple kids that have gone here, and my family has all gone here to school. So what I would like to talk to you all about is the meeting that's coming up tomorrow night, the different approaches to how Blue Ridge High School recognizes graduates, dealing with the GPAs, the valedictorian, salutatorian, and the class rank. As I was saying, I have two kids that have gone here. Jasper's in high school right now. Ellie graduated last year. In my family, we have a pretty long line of top honors. My aunt graduated in 1977 as a co-valedictorian. That day, a little boy looked at her. He was 3.5 years old and said, "I want to do that. I will be valedictorian when I graduate. I will stand on that stage and I will do this." My brother then went on to graduate as co-valedictorian, class of 1992. My cousin graduated co-valedictorian of 1997. We had 5 valedictorians that year. Super smart class, Dr. Rachel Dawson-Berkey, and of course my latest and greatest, my daughter, your current salutatorian of Blue Ridge High School. And I remember I gave all that to you because this honor is such a huge part of our family. And the thought that this may go away, like many schools are doing, breaks my heart. We are an educational facility. We should be honoring those children that are working their rear ends off to get on that stage. I remember Ellie saying, I will be valedictorian or salutatorian. I will do this. She has a huge fear of public speaking. Same as her mom right there shaking. And I'm like, kiddo, you do realize you have to have a speech? She goes, I will make that speech. That is the only speech I want to make. I will make that speech. I want that honor. I am working so hard, Mom. I want to stand up in front of those people and do that. So she did. She reached that goal. She worked hard. Her brother has watched her. I don't know if Jasper will be a valedictorian or salutatorian. He may be, he may not be, but it has motivated him. He saw all the scholarships that Ellie got. He sees what she's doing in college, and he wants to do that. He's also very money-minded, and he's like, okay, I can get ahead, you know, with scholarships and whatnot. So, you know, the thought that we may change this and we may not honor those kids, we may group them together, we don't know how to. I know the big thing that's been told of me is, well, we don't know how to do all the classes, you know, how to figure out what the weight is and whatever, you know, coming up with that. Well, there is an algorithm. If you get online, I just quickly put in Illinois State Board of Education algorithm. There's one that comes up. And then there's lots of people that work in IT, or not IT, but analytics and whatnot. I'm sure that they could help out the school or whatnot and get that done. But I just think it's such a huge honor. So many kids work so hard. And again, that's why we're here. We're not here, it's a bonus to play sports. And Ellie did. She played softball and she was on the Scholastic Bowl team, and she did volleyball and golf, and she enjoyed it, and she loved being the captain of the softball team, and she enjoyed getting her honors. But that's all secondary. And I think that we need to be honoring that too. But if we take away this honor and this achievement, then I feel like we probably need to take away the rest of it. Because ultimately that's why our kids are here. And I'm not saying get rid of those things, but if you're taking away the big thing, then why are we even celebrating anything else when what they're doing is to be here, to go to school, to learn, to go out and be a productive person in society. And I believe that by working hard in school, they're learning at an early age to go out and be that person, to be a productive person in society. So anyway, and I guess I have these questions too. Why are we even thinking about doing this? What is our goal in this? What what benefit does Blue Ridge High School get out of taking away the recognition of those individuals who are top of their class? Is it that they don't have to do as much work to figure out the grading system? I mean, is it easier on them than it is on the student who's working really, really hard? So anyway, there's my comment. Thank you so much for letting me speak. I've never done this.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, and I would recommend you coming to tomorrow's meeting and listening.
Oh, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of those questions will be answered.
okay, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming out and saying
Thank you.
something.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, up next we have presentations and then communications
Zero there.
and committee reports.
All right, we had a couple of recent committee reports. Actually, tonight we had our negotiations committee, who's kind of starting that process and having some dialogue about what that will look like here in the near future. And then regarding facilities, we met, I think, on January 7th. We were able to have a lot of dialogue about a variety of topics. Some of those were HLS, or Health Life Safety projects, that were part of our Health Life Safety survey. Committee members to jump in, you know, when I miss something, okay? A lot of the focus, I believe, is kind of some on the bigger projects that we had related to HLS. A lot of that is going to be with tuck pointing. That'll be a conversation that we have tonight, the tuck pointing, the little lentil work, some of the structural work, which will come up a little bit later. And then we talked about some non-HLS projects, so just some kind of different infrastructure improvements around the district, and just kind of thoughts and ideas that we have upcoming. Big conversation piece was the playground, which we will also follow up here in a little bit. We talked about the SIP application, and that is just a work order process for O&M and maintenance. Hopefully we'll have that ready to go next week. And we also discussed the school maintenance grant, which we'll be talking about tonight as well. Any other kind of main topics that you guys wanted to touch base on? Okay.
Big one is the two big ones. The playground and the HLS.
Yeah.
For the tuck.
Tuck pointing is a big one, and that's what we'll talk about during the consideration for bids here in a little bit. It is a very large project that not only has that kind of big primary tuck pointing, but just all kind of the additional pieces that come along with that. So that's all I have.
And then administrative reports.
Okay, I'm up again. We're going to go right into, I'm not going to talk much about my board report. A lot of those things actually are things that we'll discuss throughout tonight's meeting. We are going to start with the QFR, actually, the quarterly financial report. You should have that in front of you. You actually have two QFRs in front of you, and we'll talk a little bit about why that is once we get going. So I want you to look down at the bottom left-hand corner. You should see a couple of asterisks. One says includes early tax money, and one says without early taxes. Okay, so we're going to take a look at, well, let's take a look at without early taxes first. And this is going to be just a quick overview that we're going to go through here. And so what happens, and this is a conversation that we've talked about before, but when we do the levy annually, you know, when we levy for FY26, you know, hopefully that goal and that money is coming into FY26 budget. But in the last couple of years, McLean County and just this year, Piatt County have been providing early tax payments. So we've been receiving a large sum of money, early tax revenue, coming into the FY25 budget. So it makes our current budget look like we haven't received the revenues that we have. But that money is there, and we'll talk about that in the next document. Actually, let's just take a look at that next document, because really what you're going to see here in the revenues, that's what impacts it. That's column F. If you look at column F and you go down there and without tax money, you can see the number of money that we received there revenue-wise. In column G, you can see the percentage of revenue that we received to this date. All right, and what you'll notice is, like an education fund, we received 54% of that. In O&M, we received 53%. In transportation, we received 39% of our revenues. Working cash, 60%. So those numbers are going to be much smaller than what's actually in the bank and the money that we brought in so far. So let's just quickly switch over to the early tax money document. We'll kind of dive more into that, because that's the one really with the nuts and bolts to it. So if you'll notice, this was updated on 12/31. So when we look at revenues and expenditures, hopefully we're around 50%. That's kind of the number that we want to be in when we look at revenues and expenditures to date. When we take a look at Fund 10 and you look at the actual revenues, you can see we brought in about $9 million in revenue. Next to that, you can see that that's about 84% of our revenue that we brought in to date. That is mostly our local tax money that we brought in. The other 16% basically is a variety of state and local tax funds that we have not received yet. So I believe we will receive those, they just have not been released yet. Also, like county facility sales tax money, CPPRT money, which is corporate personal property replacement tax, all of those we just haven't received or received a very small portion of so far. But that money will tend to come in, in spring and as we get to the end of the year. If you look at O&M, Fund 20, you can see we brought in about 1.1. 86% of the money, 86% of the revenue has been brought in. Once again, we're just missing things like CPPRT money, some of the interest that we have in our school maintenance grant that we've also put into the revenues. When we keep going down, you can look at transportation, $551,000. This is the one that's probably the most impacted. We've received local tax funds, but the state provides quite a bit of reimbursement funds annually for transportation, and those are the funds that have been prorated quite a bit during the last couple of years, especially this year. So we get reimbursed for two payments. One is special ed transportation, and one is just regular transportation. And so, we're really hoping that at some point we can get those 100% funded reimbursement checks. I think last year we were somewhere in the 70% area, or what was projected for this year. So we're really hoping at some point that really is increased and we can receive 100%. You may have remembered those terms were utilized, or they called those mandated categoricals prior to, but there's been a lot of conversation about using the terms that they actually are and saying that these are regular and special ed reimbursement payments. That's what we're really hoping for those full amounts to come in. Working cash, you can see we received 98%, wonderful there. Bond and interest payments down there in the next row, these are those closed funds. In Fund 30, you can see we brought in about 1.2 million, 99% of the way there. IMRF, 50%, or Fund 50, we brought in 243,000, 65% of our revenue has been received. Once again, waiting on state funding, non-local pieces. Site construction, we are projecting to bring in about 157,000. To this date, we've only brought in 18,000. A large amount of that revenue is going to be county facility sales tax money that we put into that space. So we just haven't received that money. And so once we do, hopefully that will be in good shape. Fund 80, right, is tort and immunity. And so that one we brought in 340,000, 86% of what we were projected to bring in. And then last but not least, HLS funds. You can see we're doing pretty well there. Once again, all we're waiting to receive in that line is just some interest. It's a small amount, but we should bring in a lot of interest there because we've had a pretty healthy fund balance in that space for quite some time, so we're getting a lot of interest there. So let's move over to column I. Those are your actual expenditures. So if you look at column I and go down in the yellow, you can see in Fund 10 that we've expended about 5.2, that's 46%. You can see O&M, 550,000, 38% of our projected budget, 52% in transportation. Those are pretty much right where we want to be, right? So we're doing pretty well there. Bond and interest, you see 77% of expenditures. Those are because those payments are done at certain times of the year, so those have been paid, and there'll be some more payments coming in the spring. IMRF, right where we need to be. Site construction is 60. You see that we are over there, so eventually we'll have to amend the budget. And in Fund 60, that was due to one of the payments that was supposed to be processed in June was not processed until actually July. So it showed on this new budget as opposed to the old budget. So we will have to do an amendment there at one point. Tort, once again, you can see the expenditures there, 68%. That's high once again because we pay property casualty and a lot of premiums in the fall, so that number's a little bit higher. And then health, life, safety, we've only spent a minimal amount, but you're going to see a huge change in that by the end of the year because we will have, number one, the roof change order, which we'll talk about tonight. We will talk about the windows. Well, we just are working on the completion of the ag shop and industrial tech shop windows, which is the HLS project, and then the tuck pointing and the wall, the structural piece, which is going to be a large number as well. That will help go into that space and definitely increase those expenditures pretty quick. So, any overall questions about the QFR?
Does the CPPRT payment come from the state or the counties?
Good question. I'm not sure. I will find that out. It's one of the two, obviously. We're waiting on that. So I believe it's a state, because the reason that that actual CPPRT fund was there is that personal property tax for businesses was cut in the 1970s. And so basically when that happened, there was a loss for quite some time. And when they added the CPPRT money, it's considered the corporate personal property replacement tax. It was put back in place to offset some of that lost funding for both local municipalities as well as school districts. So I believe it's a state number, but I can find out.
Just curiosity.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? All right. Next up, strategic plan update. I'm just gonna use this one. All right. It's not going to be up here. It'll be actually on your devices there today, but we're going to kind of go through some of the goal areas, and there's a lot to update this month. This is a big month for that. So thank you principals and Ms. Trimble, assistant principals too, for assisting with carrying out these goals and help to report on these as well. So I appreciate you. First goal really is goal one is student achievement. That's kind of our main goal that we have, obviously, because that's why we're here, right? To support students and to help them learn. And so the first part is really looking at growing in our examination of data, to impact instructional decisions. So that's something that we are continually working on in a variety of ways, through collaborative team meetings, through data days, through PD days when we have those opportunities, when we don't have mandated trainings that are taking up our time. And so, really a lot of that time is what we're doing is looking at iReady benchmark goals, so those diagnostic assessments, looking at curricular assessments, looking at dyslexia screeners, looking at all these different tools that we utilize to help move students forward, identify where they're at, and provide different supports to get them where they need to be. Sometimes it's because a student may be below level, we need to get them onto level. Sometimes it's because we have students that are on level or above, and we're trying to push them so that they can get to that ceiling, or push through that ceiling and get to that next level. Curriculum, we've done a lot of great work with curriculum this year, and we will continue to do that in the years moving forward. A lot of that has to do with ELA, professional development and support, with our CPLA and Amplify at the K through 8 setting. A lot of the PD has been on, teacher planning and student engagement, utilizing that curriculum. Grade level days have looked at unit planning, and then also kind of starting some initial conversations looking at our math curriculum as a district K-12. Illinois released that numeracy plan, and so we want to make sure that our current practices and curriculum are evidence-based and where they need to be, so that we can make sure students receive the highest level of education we can provide. 1.3 looks at MTSS and enrichment intervention. We kind of talked a little bit about that already. When we take a look at goal 1.4, it's looking at that 70% number. We've had that conversation about hoping that 70% of our students are in K-8 are reaching that 1 year typical growth. Remember, when you look at some of the data behind that, 50% is the target. We wanted to increase that number and push ourselves to the next level. And we're making some good progress there. You can see some of the numbers that are listed. Actually have a piece of data that we utilize. We actually met last week as an ILT team, instructional leadership team. That is a team that meets, each building has one that meets monthly, if not more. And then district-wise, we'll meet 2 to 3 times a year to talk about a variety of topics. This is one of the areas that I showed. This is some diagnostic data from the winter benchmark. And so when you look up there, this is actually a math assessment that was taken. Every year, our students take 3 diagnostic assessments, fall, winter, spring. This information basically just takes it and looks at it from a quadrant perspective. If you look at the 4 quadrants, you can see low performance, low growth, high performance, low growth. Left side at the top is low performance, high growth, and the right side at the top is high performance, high growth. Obviously, we always want to be in that top right quadrant, right? We want high performing students and high growth. What we saw during our winter time is we didn't see quite as much performance, but that's because students come in with a variety of skills, right? And so we're trying to get them to that standard, to that next level. But what we saw was some really solid growth numbers. So we're in that low performance, high growth, which means to me that, you know, our systems, interventions, and things are working. We're seeing some solid pieces there, but we always want to continue to grow there. And then when you look at reading, reading was quite an awesome opportunity to share. Those blue dots, I should say too, I'm so used to looking at these, I didn't explain, that's a building. So one of those is the Snyder building, one of those is the Mansfield building. High school will be taking this throughout this January time, so I don't have them on this list. But when you look at reading, you can see we fall into the high performance, high growth quadrant, which is an exciting thing to see, right? We've instilled in K-8 a new Tier 1 curriculum. People are working through that with implementation, looking at instructional practices. You know, and to me what that shows is that we're doing some things that are impacting students in a positive way. And you know, my big push as we move forward and talk to the ILTs, we just want to continue that academic momentum. These are great numbers, we want to see them continue. So our teachers and our admin are doing a lot of work with instruction, and that's something that we'll continue to do moving forward. Subgoal 1.5 looks at ACT scores. Obviously our goal is to hopefully continue to exceed or maintain kind of that state average. We scored exceptionally well actually this year. We actually just received a response, a letter from Stacy France, who is, what is her role at the kind of school improvement?
Development. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So, but she's awesome. She does a lot of data and a lot of work with school designations. So if you remember back in October, we received our designations, and all 3 buildings were commendable. They're looking at new designations for next school year. And we actually received, if we were to look at these new designations, the high school would actually be receiving a designation called approaching exemplary. So it's above commendable based off some of the recent data that they received. So that was an awesome piece of data to share. We were excited about that. A lot of that has to do with those great ACT scores as well compared to some of the average there. Let's keep moving. Goal number 2 is kind of district and community relations. So once again, we're just working on ways that we can get parents into the building and community activities. That happens a lot more kind of at that K-8 area. We want to continue to find ways just throughout though to enhance those opportunities that help parents be a part of that learning opportunity and activities that are happening. We go down to Goal 3, programs and services. This is one that's been on our strategic plan for a little while. Is looking at kind of expanding those before and after school programming and services. We've already had a couple of activities this year. The Pens to Lens just happened, and I think you'll probably talk about that later, so I'm not going to take that from you. But you know, also Paige and I met with Rennie Kluver from the YMCA in Clinton, and we've had some conversation. And he's interested, and we're interested about looking at before and after school programming. In some way, shape, or form, or you know, on those days when there's no student attendance, you know, being able to host students to help with some of the daycare and childcare issues that are out there in the community. And so then also, we'll talk more about early dismissal too. That'll be kind of the beginning aspect of it right now, is having some dialogue about how can they support, you know, the idea of some of those early dismissal times or during those non-student attendance times. Let's keep going. Lots of opportunities for academic enrichment, especially at the high school level. I mean, adding AP Chem this year, adding a variety of dual credit courses this year, whether that's in ag business or whether that's education pathways courses. Just continually look to find ways to add new courses to make sure that students have access to a variety of higher ed pieces. Career Connections, that's an area that we continually evolve in. BCA is an amazing partnership that we have, and we continue to host students from there. Oh my goodness, sorry, hold on a second. Also CEO is another program, entrepreneurship, and actually we'll have some conversation in a little bit about a local opportunity for some entrepreneurship courses that we'll offer here at the high school. When you go down to finances, you know, really that's just me kind of sharing information about different finances with you and with the community. All of that is listed there. I won't spend a lot of time on that area. If you have questions, you're welcome to ask. And then at the end, in facilities, Obviously, we've kind of met that requirement. Our goal is to really meet twice annually. I actually updated the other document. It only says we met in January, but we've actually met twice. We've met in October and January so far, and we may even do another time. We'll see, kind of depending on how some of the projects are going, and if we need to look at any new kind of projects for the rest of the school year. And then the other goal is looking at prioritizing the replacement of the Schneider Elementary playground. And you know, we're in the process of that right now also. So we'll learn more about that tonight. Any questions about the strategic plan update? That was a lot of stuff. Okay, principals are up.
I get to go
Oh, you're
first.
going to start tonight?
Yeah, I
Great,
lost
like
rock,
that.
paper, scissors, so I have to go first. So, hi everybody, good evening. Thank you guys for being here. I know it's a lot of work to be a board member. One big thing that's happening is the playground. We collected a lot of data around what preferences there were, our community. We had over 100 responses to our survey, which included community members and teachers. So got great feedback. Took all that, Ryan's talked to lots of different people. One of the big themes that came out was inclusivity and making sure that our kids, maybe with some mobility concerns, have access to different opportunities on the playground. So Ryan and I looked at that. We asked our physical therapist, Chris Lawless, to do some work with us on making sure that we were thinking about it the right way, and she offered some really great opportunities. We took all of that feedback and talked with our representative, Ben, about kind of ways we can enhance the playground area just to make sure that it is as accessible as it can be. Ryan got some really good data about different opportunities that there are within the playground for like lower events that everybody can access. So I feel really good about where we are and the options that we have, and I'm excited to see it happen and come to fruition. On that same playground note, one of the things I feel like I'm always telling you when I'm up here is how we are really working on keeping our hands to ourselves on the playground. And so I just wanted to take a minute to celebrate the fact that when we looked at our mid-year data, our referrals for physical aggression, we're only at 44. And our goal is to be under 125 by the end of the year. So I feel like we're on path, and constantly harping on it is actually helping. And I think having more to do on the playground with the structures, I think that's gonna take care of a lot of issues. One of the things Ryan touched on was Pens to Lens. That was an opportunity that we pushed out to our community for the first time this year, and it was amazing. We did it with Schneider. We offered it to Schneider kids last week. We had 10 kids come and 10 adults came to be their scribes. And they taught them what it means to write a screenplay, how that's different than writing a story. They taught them about how characters come in and what a setting looks like and where are you in this part of the story. And then the kids just talked, and the adult volunteers just typed for them and helped them think through like what character is saying that and where are they when they're saying that, and then what happens next. And so then those all got submitted into this contest and could potentially either be turned into a movie poster or a short film. So we're offering that. We did not have anybody sign up at the high school, unfortunately, but we had, I think, 6 or 7 kids sign up at the junior high. So that is tomorrow night. And we have multiple parents who are there to help as well. But I mean, 4th through 8th graders, they don't really need as much help with the typing, but to be able to just think creatively and not have to worry about the typing part, we're going to ask parents to help with that. So I'm excited to see how that comes out. The only other thing I want to put on your radar, we are continually adding students to our pre-K program through early intervention. So in case you don't know, early intervention is a program that's offered to kiddos from birth up to 3 years. And it's typically for parents who have concerns about development for their child. It might be physical development, it might be speech and language. And so what happens is, if those kids are still eligible to receive services when they turn 3, they enter into our pre-K program with an IEP. So we have had quite a few kids enter through early intervention, and we've also had quite a few kids come in through screening. We've actually had just today, we received transfer information from Champaign Early Childhood for 2 more kiddos with IEPs to transfer over to our pre-K program. So I'm saying all of that to let you know that we will probably need some extra hands in pre-K. One thing I would really like to consider is hiring an at-will paraprofessional to help with some of those higher need kiddos that we have in our pre-K program. So once we have a better understanding, once we get those kids here and have a better understanding of what their IEPs contain, we will be able to say exactly what we need, but I just kind of wanted to get that on your radar tonight.
Okay.
Any questions? No? Okay.
Thank you.
I think it's on.
It is now.
Sorry.
That's okay. Good evening, everybody. Just want to share a few things with you. As Mr. Payton was talking about, we had our fall diagnostic that sets our kids' baseline scores and are ready for both reading and mathematics. We choose to do the follow-up one before we leave for Christmas break rather than coming back. I find that it gives us a little more accurate data, plus a lot of the norms are based on number of days of instruction, so it gives us maybe a better look at where our kids are kind of at that halfway point. One of the goals that we had in our school improvement plan was to look for our kids, 56% of our kids to make their growth goal for the year. And good news is we reached 61% of our students making their reading goal at the midway point. Now we hope that if you think about it, so if you set a goal at the fall and you want to get 100% of that goal, we look at that 50% mark right there at the winter. And so we have 61% of our students that are at that 50% mark or above. Pretty excited about that. We are only at 53% for our kiddos making that halfway point, so we've got some work to do in mathematics, that 53% math. So what we did is we got together with all of our grade levels. Matter of fact, we just had our junior high collaboration tonight to make sure that during our intervention times, do we have our kids getting the right supports that they need, whether it's in reading or mathematics. So some of our kids maybe got really intense reading intervention in the first semester, and like I said, reading, but maybe their math scores, maybe they need to move over to the math intervention. So by analyzing that data, that kind of helps us make that decision. Then we don't just use that one data point, we also talk with the classroom teachers. Do these scores line up with what you're seeing in the classroom? Do you see them struggling with the curriculum too? And so that make sure that we're really leveraging all the supports that we can to help our kids make those growth goals. So those are exciting times talking data with our teachers. Number two thing that ties into that, a couple years ago we started our academic achievement assemblies. So twice a year we go ahead and we recognize students in a couple of different areas. We have it in January and we also have one in May, because January kind of gives us a chance to reflect on how the first semester goes. So what we look at is 95% attendance, so that will be recognized, any students that achieved that for the first semester. We look back at their IAR scores from the previous year. We want to recognize students that met or exceeded in either English language arts testing or math testing. And then, so that's kind of the achievement side of things. And we also recognize kids that maybe came to us at the start of the year, maybe not where they needed to be, but they've worked hard and they've made some growth. So kids that are on progress to make their growth, so that 50% mark, we want to recognize them in both reading and mathematics too. And then on the junior high side, on top of that, we add whether or not students made honor roll or high honor roll. We want to make sure that they're recognized for that too. The last thing I want to share with you guys, thanks to Mr. Easter, he got a hold of a really neat speaker for us. His name was Ben Tracy. And so in contacting him, because he was going to be in the area, I think he was over at Ridgeview last week. He's actually a kid that, I was just saying a man, that as a child grew up in Colfax, so he's from the area. But what he came in and then got the opportunity to speak also to our 7th and 8th graders after he finished speaking at the high school. And he specialized in internet safety. And I won't lie, there were some scary things that he shared with us that some of our kids that go through that are really plugged into the internet, either through games or social media, things that they are approached by, things that they need to be on the lookout for. He had some some very interesting tales. Tales that also had students' names attached to them. Not our students, obviously, but students that he's encountered, families that he's talked with and shared. It was a really powerful message to our kids just about the need to be careful in this day and age. So I'm really glad, thanks to Mr. Easter, that we had that opportunity, and Mr. Payton for helping with that, to have that opportunity for our kids. Thanks a lot. Any questions?
All right.
You turn it off? Seriously?
It was a test.
I don't really need a microphone, but I'll use it for the other stuff. So yeah, new semester, off and running. At the high school, sometimes kids, a lot of times they have a different schedule than they had first semester, so the new semester is always fun. Sometimes they have new teachers that they didn't have first semester, so that's exciting. It's a fresh start, so I always enjoy that about high school for sure. Let's see. Other schools have they did their iReady diagnostics before. As Mr. Payton mentioned, we're doing ours after break. Just since we have final exams as we wrap up first semester, our teachers feel like our kids they'll get better results out of them after the break. We'll see. It's also unique for the high school because iReady is actually they only have lessons designed up through 8th grade. It's not necessarily designed for high school kids. But when we first started using the program, we saw that a lot of our kids came to us not at 9th and 10th grade levels of reading and math. And so one of the things that we've really been pushing with our freshman and sophomore English and math teachers is let's find out who those kids are that aren't quite up to grade level, and let's really work with them and make sure that we can get them up to high school level, by at a reasonable pace. So that's what we're shooting for. So our goals, our growth goals, we don't have the measurable stuff because a lot of our kids aren't really in that zone. But our goal is to just get them to the high school level, so that's where our targeted numbers will come in, and I'll have those to share with you next month. As Bert mentioned, we did have a guest speaker. Just kind of real fortunate how that all worked out, and I'll tell you from my experience here in our building. He said, all of our kids were just locked in on him. It was intense, very powerful stuff. And so I got to believe that a handful of those kids will be able to make some changes to their social media habits, and it could end up being life-saving, as he mentioned, with some families that he encountered across the country. So really, really great stuff there. Something more exciting and positive. Last night we had the FFA did their interview blitz, which was always a lot of fun. I was able to sit on the interview panel with Dyke Schaefer, and we interviewed a handful of kids. Kids come in, they do little 10-minute interviews. 4 of our 5 candidates were practicing for their presenting their SAEs, so we would drill them and ask them questions about their SAEs. One of the candidates is working on his state degree, and so we asked him questions, grilling him on that type of thing, just trying to get the kids ready for competitions that they'll face later on in the semester. So that's always a fun thing to do. Let's see, and coming up, this really big on our plates here for me and Mr. Kirkton. We're hosting the LPC boys basketball tournament starting Saturday. So all the conference schools will be playing either here or at D-Land Weldon. So it's actually a really nice thing that D-Land is co-oping with us this year, because we needed a second gym. There's so many games that need to happen for this. So we're able to host some games down in D-Land. So between Saturday and Tuesday and Wednesday and next Friday, there's going to be a ton of games going on at those 2 locations. So that'll definitely keep us busy. Any questions about any of that before I move on to the one that you're all going to have questions about? All right, great. As I mentioned in my principal report, I said I could speak to a little bit about a conversation that came up a couple of years ago related to recognizing graduates. And it's just every year we have this conversation about why do we do what we do? And a lot of times the answer is, well, we've always done it that way. And why are other people making changes, and what are we seeing? What impact is that having? As one of the things I thought about here is what's our district mission statement? You know, we want to embrace, engage, equip, and empower our students. That's part of it. Obviously, there's parents and staff and community, but like embracing our students means like let's recognize all of our kids that do great stuff. We have a lot of kids that do work hard. As Amanda referenced, we have so many kids that work so hard in school and out of school and do great things. And I can think back to a class in my time here. So in the past 4 years, there was one year. There was a group that probably 9 or 10 of the graduates had GPAs of you know, at least a 4.0 on a 4-point scale, and they ranged all the way up to, you know, 4.5 or whatever it was, because they were just, it was an awesome group, and they really excelled. They took challenging classes, they got great grades. Only 2 of those kids were recognized as, you know, valedictorian, salutatorian. In any other year, the kid that was number 5 in that class might have been valedictorian of their class. So for that particular group, Mr. Ramos and I, we looked at that and we're like, man, that stinks. But I mean, that's one example, and I get people say, well, not everybody can be this and that, but because we have so many kids that are doing great things, why don't we want to recognize all of these kids? And we're looking for a way, and there's other schools that do this. They have ways that they can say, these kids got tremendous grades, they took challenging classes, they were involved in stuff, they did these things, and so they graduate with this distinction. And then this group of kids maybe didn't take all the challenging classes, but they got high grades and they have this distinction. And there's just, we can recognize them with chords, we can recognize them just in the program. There's lots of different ways that it can be done. That's the conversation we want to have. Like, how do we embrace our students and recognize them for the great things that they accomplish in the classroom? Engage, the way we can engage our kids. We know that we have kids say to us, I don't want to take that class because I don't want to mess up my GPA, because I'm working towards this GPA and I'm trying to compete for this, that. So we have kids that won't select certain classes that they would otherwise like to have. And I'm not a fan of that. I want kids to be able to take a class that they would like to do. We have kids that don't take fine arts classes or ag classes or shop classes or something because it's not a weighted class and it's not going to boost their GPA, and that's not great for those programs, and I want to support those programs and I want to see those things grow. We have kids that won't go to Bloomington Career Academy or won't sign up for CEO because it takes too many things out of their schedule, and it doesn't allow them to, you know, to get the classes that they need to boost their GPA because they're trying to, you know, play that game. It's just like we want to engage our kids. We want them to be able to be in the courses that they want to be in without worrying about, you know, other aspects of what implications there might be there. Equip, yeah, we want to equip our kids for life after high school. Again, those opportunities like our tech class here, you know, the ag program, the shop program, BCA, CEO. There's all kinds of skills that they can get through those programs. We want them to have the opportunity to do that and not be encumbered by, you know, again, GPA requirements. And also empower falls into that, just empowering them to choose their path. What is it that you want to do? What is it that speaks to you and that drives you and is really going to be part of your future? So, you know, as I thought through about, you know, what people's questions are, yeah, why make a change? It's not just we want to make a change for the sake of making a change. It's like every year we're in a conversation of this system isn't right. We need to fix something with the system. We need to do more for our kids, to recognize our kids. And that's where this conversation is coming from. So that'll be my intro. And again, before you guys ask questions, is a community forum to run. I do invite all of you to attend. What did I say, 6 o'clock? I think I said 6 o'clock here at the high school. I scheduled for the teacher workroom, but if we have a really big crowd, we can find a bigger space. You know, that's not an issue to do so. But anyway, tonight, questions. I'm looking at Sid because I know he's got questions.
Yeah, I got questions.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, since we're on that, I have another question, but just to keep it on topic. So, I mean, I'm kind of partial here. I like the way it's been done. I like the competition. I understand that they're weighted, and those classes are different, and that might draw a kid into that class, and then he's not taking art or whatever the other class is. if they're choosing to go after being the valedictorian, then they're playing the game and they're making a choice, and let them do it. I don't know why we would change that.
I guess my question is that the goal of every student at high school? And
Most likely not.
And is that the purpose of high school? Or is our purpose to equip kids for life after high school?
Well, you are equipping them. You're letting them make a choice to choose their path, and they can go for it if they want to. If they want to be the valedictorian, why take away that carrot? Like, if that's what they want, I mean, it's right there. I mean, well, and maybe you don't take it away. Maybe you keep the valedictorian, the salutatorian, and you add something in for GPAs that exceed 4.0 or 4.25, you know? That's not, I'm not opposed to that. I like recognizing kids for doing well. That's great, but I don't think we should take away. I mean, there is something to being the best. That's awesome, and it should be recognized. That's what I think.
And I don't disagree with you, and I think that is certainly something that would be considered. And in fact, regardless of what we do, I think that might be what things look like for perhaps the class of 28 and 29, like our current sophomores and freshmen. Maybe we have some stuff like that where we can give them some additional, recognitions. And then, who knows where things go from there. But we want to share information about, here's what we're seeing, here's what we see other people do, here's what colleges are looking for and what colleges are not looking for, here's what people hiring kids in the workforce are looking for and what they're not looking for. We want to do what's best for all of our kids, and so that's what's driving this whole thing. And so we don't know exactly what that might look like as best for Blue Ridge. I know what a lot of other schools are doing, but I don't know what's best for Blue Ridge, and that's what we're trying to find out, and that's why we want to have the conversation.
Yeah,
So
conversations are good. Hopefully there's a ton of people there tomorrow.
I hope so too, yeah.
What other recognitions are there right now? Is it just valedictorian salute? I've never heard of salutatorian.
Salutatorian, second place, yep.
And is there like an honors night kind of thing? Where you
There
get
is,
together?
yep. We do an honors night, usually about a week and a half before graduation, and yeah, there's a lot of recognitions that night. There's a lot of scholarships. There's just different awards for different classes and stuff like that. It's something, and we've modified that program a little bit over the years. We continue to look at ways to make it more engaging for everybody, I think we're moving in a good direction with that.
I think I just want to say that I appreciate hearing, like, the high school is thinking about, like, when kids choose to do other things that take them out of the classroom here, like BCA or like CEO, that those are real conversations that families are having, our family being one. And clearly, my daughter has the job she has today because she did BCA. It was very tough conversations her junior and senior year. It took her out of a lot of courses here. She didn't get all those recognitions. Now, did she get some recognitions at BCA? Yeah, we did a lot of things there, but when you're gone for at that time it was most of the morning that she was gone. It's like, it is a difference, and so you do that. Was the conversation, but you've always been this student, but where was she gonna go long term? Like, her interest was very much medical field, and so it was like, but this is really smart to do this now. And for her, it really did work out. I mean, literally where she did her clinicals as a junior in high school, she delivered a baby there last night. Like, so she's literally still there, 28 years old. She has 9 years of service at that hospital because of that. And we owe BCA for all of that. But there were sacrifices to be made. So it would be nice for those students to be like, hey, she just knew she was no longer competing for any of that starting her junior year. Like,
yep.
That was no longer her focus, and so it was just off the table. She knew she wasn't going to have those recognitions because she just couldn't.
Yeah, and I want our top students to be able to choose that if they want to, and not feel like they're required to stay here because they have to take this class for the GPA and all that. And that's just, it's something.
She literally had to take an online biology course to be able to do it because the biology wouldn't even, advanced biology, again, she went into a medical field. she needed advanced biology. She had to take it in our alternative ed classroom. So, I mean, that's where she
Yeah.
literally couldn't take advanced biology in high school and still do that. Again, super tough conversations for us, yes, so she couldn't get the extra, getting an A on the online biology was not the same as advanced biology in the classroom.
So it's just not weighted the same, the classes are weighted differently, even though it's a college level course?
You talking about BCA?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not weighted, like we don't recognize, but that's also part of the conversation is, right now, we only have a handful of weighted classes. Should we look at those differently? Should teachers be able to submit and say, I think this class should be considered as a weighted grade, and then we have a panel of, some teachers and who knows who, that then review those and say, yeah, that counts, and that should be a weighted grade. Another thing that we've talked about is to have the dual credit courses, the AP courses, maybe BCA, CEO, things like that, and then some capstone courses, like the top, if you work your way through these, this track, and this is the end-all be-all for this class, so whether it's the BSAA, the business ag class, that's a dual credit for ag, or maybe it's the carpentry cabinet making class for shop, or it's entrepreneurship class that Paige is going to talk about here for our business department, whatever that is. Maybe that's one of these cohort. Maybe we end up with 10 or 12 classes in there, and we say, you know what? If you take X number of these classes, whatever it is, 6, 8 of these classes, and your GPA is this, that qualifies you for this category. You're magna cum laude or whatever. Whatever terminology we want to say, or highest honors, or high honors, or greatest distinction, or however we want to do it that sounds best for Blue Ridge. Those are all the conversations that we want to have moving forward. We want people to be on board with having those conversations so that we can recognize more kids and open more opportunities for more kids to take all the classes that we would like them to take.
I think it's very early in the planning phase. There's a lot of conversations basically that we'd like to have with community members and just see how does this align with our district goals and values. I think we're very early on.
Yep.
And we can do it tomorrow night.
Yeah, and for tomorrow night's open. I hope that there's more. I hope that there's maybe we have more questions that come out of tomorrow night, more ideas and stuff like that, and then we'll want to do another forum. A couple weeks after that, maybe some other people will come. And won't be next week because we got the basketball tournament going on, but maybe the week after that. We don't want to rush into it. It is a big decision. We know what we're doing isn't perfect, and we'd just like to make it better for all our kids. And we want input on that. Anyone else?
Not on that topic.
Okay.
How are the cell phones going in your cases?
So we're doing a challenge right now. I haven't started sorting the data, so I can't give you any data on it, but I let the kids know that I'm going to randomly be announcing during class periods during the day to teachers, hey, check your cell phone caddies, and every kid who's got their phone in it, put their name in this spreadsheet, a shared sheet that I've got, and then at the end of the challenge, then I'm going to tally up, and if we do it, say, 10 times, if I announce that 10 times, our hope is that we would find kids whose phones were in the case at least 8 of those 10 times, over the course of that. And then we've got a surprise that we're going to do for those kids one day. I will say we did something similar to that before Christmas break. I saw a lot more names on my list before Christmas than I'm seeing after. So I think kids got out of the routine a little bit is what I think I'm seeing. But I will also say this. Mr. Kirkton and I are constantly popping in and out of classrooms and throughout the building. I don't see kids on their cell phones in classroom nearly as much as I have in previous years. So even if they're not in the caddies, I'm not walking into a classroom and seeing 3 kids sitting on their phones. So I think regardless of how it's happening, I think teachers are doing a better job enforcing it this year. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, have there been any more contract violations since, with the last 6 referrals?
I don't believe that any of those were a contract violation. I think we got a new kid on a contract, possibly 2 this semester at the beginning, but I don't think there's been any violations. Because most of the kids, when they realize that if somebody catches them with their cell phone, that the phone is then going to have to stay in the office all day, that usually helps them remember to keep it put away in class. So, and I believe that most of those violations, if not all of them, have been by the same person who. That's a whole other story.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, 3 on the same person if the phone's always supposed to be in the office.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
It's difficult, right? Yeah. Well, because the first time it's a 1 day, in the office, and then the next time we do 3 days, the next time we do 5 days, the next time would be 2 weeks, and then a month. So I've never gotten to the month.
Man,
I've gotten to 2 weeks.
go more aggressive on that and just take it for a week after the first screw up.
We should. Yeah, okay. I'll make
Just
that.
food for
I
thought.
can make that change next year, Sig. I will.
It's a good halo conversation.
Yeah. Well, we did, at first, we had some additional steps to even get to the contract, and I took one of those steps away. So why not take the steps away once we get there and just bam?
More aggressive.
Yep, gotcha. Got it.
Yeah.
Sig the heavy.
All right, anyone else? Okay, Paige, your turn.
Paige stuff.
Sorry. All right, good luck.
Hi, everyone. Oh, did you turn this off? You yelled
No,
at Bert for
I
doing
didn't.
that.
Maybe you turned it off, maybe the battery's dead. Because I didn't turn it off. Yeah, I probably.
There we go. Okay. Okay, just a few things I want to point out from my board report, and then I want to talk a little bit about our course proposal. Like Mr. Payton referenced, the state is coming out with releasing the most updated version of the numeracy plan, and so they're going to be holding a listening tour around the state, so I'm anxious to attend one of those, find out what updates that they made. If you remember, they did the exact same thing when we were looking at our ELA adoption, and it was basically the document that drove our decision. It was a great tool. It was great to have a common tool for everyone on the committee to reference and refer back to. So I'm excited that that's going to be coming out as we start our work on looking at our current math curriculum and which direction we want to go in. In my board report, I mentioned that we're going to start reviewing our current curriculum after spring break, and we have a date now. So on April 8th will be our first meeting where we will have grade level representatives, administrators, representatives from special education, title. We try to get as many voices as we can that are going to be looking at the curriculum from different perspectives. We think that's really valuable and important. So that will be coming up. With that being said, I've already started. If we decide to go in the direction of looking at different curriculum, I've already started meeting with reps and just getting samples so that those are available when we start having those meetings. So that is the one thing I wanted to talk about. Second thing is, as you know, we've started our 0-hour Ed Pathway courses. We have Inquiry into Teaching that Tracy Parson is teaching, and then Dr. Tresnick, the superintendent at D-Land, he is teaching technology in the classroom. Those are going really well. We are in the very initial stages of talking. Eastern has 2 additional Ed Pathway courses that they would like to talk to us about, maybe implementing possibly next year. I think they said there's a total of 4 more we could offer as time goes on. I think realistically, if we added any more next year, it probably would be 2 more. So we would do 2 of those fall semester, 2 of them spring semester, 0-hour. Right now, we have it where one course is 2 days a week, the other course is the other 2, and then they have a work day on that 5th day. So that's something that we're looking at, but I don't have a lot of information yet, but I will. Last month, or it may have been the month before, we talked about the U of I has some dual credit courses that they're offering, and so myself and Jacqueline Meisner is going to attend with me on Monday. We have a meeting with them to talk about ACES 102, which is Intro to Sustainable Food Systems. That's a course that they piloted with 2 school districts in the state this last fall, Leroy being one of them. And so I'm anxious to talk to them more about this. I don't know that that's something we would implement for the 26-27 school year, but probably more realistically 27-28. Another course that I am kind of looking into the very beginning stages for the 27-28 school year would possibly be adding AP Calculus on campus. We do have a teacher that is qualified to teach that and is willing to teach that. So if we see that there could be a need for that, that's something that I'd like to explore with the high school as well. I think that's all I had as far as my board report. However, I wanted to circle back to the course proposal for the high school, which was entrepreneurship. I talked to you a little bit about that last month. Lauren Schreifer is here. I'm gonna have Lauren come up in case you have specific questions I can't answer. We appreciate her coming tonight, but Lauren proposed that she would like to teach a year-long elective course. It would be entrepreneurship. It would just be a way to expand the business department's offerings. You know, they would get experience on how to run a real business and what it takes for companies to succeed. The way that she would break it up is that by 2 semesters. You'd have entrepreneurship semester 1, entrepreneurship semester 2. In the document I shared with you, there was a description of what each of those semesters would look like. And then Lauren graciously put down for us what her units of study would be. So it would be intro to business, equipment, suppliers, how to design for clients, pricing, managing workflow, customer service, and e-commerce. So you can see there's a broad variety of skills there that students would attain as they leave Blue Ridge and enter into the workforce. It would take around $2,000 to get started. And so she itemized what those costs would go towards. So you can take a look at that if you haven't already. And then another thing that I wanted to review was just how we're able to offer this course with everything else that Lauren already teaches. So the first thing that we would have to do is that accounting would shift from a semester course. It's a year long right now. We would shift it to a semester, and it would alternate every other year with her marketing course. She would also like the sports and entertainment marketing. Instead of kind of pinholing into a specific sports and entertainment, she would like to make that a broader marketing course to reach more student interest. And then finally, she would take her information processing, advanced Word, and spreadsheets, and it would become computer apps 1 and 2 instead of being separate courses. And then she also outlined for you in that document different pathways that students could take, whether they think they want to go the route of entrepreneurship, if they wanted to move into marketing. The third one was technology and digital skills. And then finally, there'd also be a finance and accounting pathway. So with all of that, what questions do you have for me, but probably for Lauren?
Yeah, I don't have any questions for you, that's a lot.
It's a lot of work, and we
Okay.
appreciate
Yes.
having teachers willing.
Thank you.
She does so much in our district, and we're so fortunate to have her. But if you don't have any questions, then I think that will be on the agenda, and we'll go from there.
Thank
I
you.
want to point out, and I mentioned this to Ryan when I talked last week on the phone, I will feel by my office, actually, any new major or minor goes through our office. I work for the campus senate, and crazy enough, at the February 9th Senate meeting, there is a proposal for the Geese College of Business to have a major in entrepreneurship. So it's kind of a weird
That's
coincidence that
awesome.
we're actually offering a major in that now. So I'm like, wow, so students really could have a course like that. It's like, oh, works out well.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, great work, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Linda.
Paige, what teacher do we have that's qualified to do AP calculus?
Jeff Smith, he's a new teacher this school year, yeah,
New-
and
new to us.
new to, thanks, new to us, but he's taught AP courses elsewhere. Yep. Anything else?
Thank you.
And then we have the other reports in the board packet. Up next, we have approval of consent items. Are there any questions about the consent items? If not, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items listed on attachment A as presented.
That includes this new bills, right? There we go.
You did get it, yeah, you did get one set of new bills.
Yes.
The 39,000 to United Mechanical, is that part of that maintenance?
It's a part of maintenance, that's just a part of, like, typical maintenance issues that are going on, that's not a part of the prevention plan. Those are just problems that are occurring. Yeah. The Mansfield building continually seems to have a lot of ongoing issues, those older Daikin units and some other pieces, you know. And that's one of the conversations that came up during the HLS, or during the non-HLS conversation was about, at some point, do we need to look at replacing those with the newer units, just from the hardships that they create on maintenance and, you know, our students and our staff being, you know, not always operating. But Rusty and his crew and United are working constantly to make sure those are operational for our buildings.
Okay. So do I have a motion or a second?
So moved.
Second.
Yeagle and Larson.
Jonathan Yeagle,
Yes.
Jason Nolan,
Yes.
David Harris,
Yes.
Sig Gager,
Yes.
Jonathan Larson,
Yes.
Josh Vaughn,
Yes.
Nancy Miller.
Yes. And next, we have both business. First up, the playground proposal.
Okay, playground proposal. We've talked about this now for about 2.5 months, I think, so, you know, it's been a conversation that's come up in our facilities meeting and other components. I'll kind of just reiterate what Sunny had said, that we were very thankful for the responses and the stakeholder input. I mean, we received over 100 responses from staff, from community members, PT, you know, just all sorts of different individuals to make sure that we've got a good plan and design moving forward. Like she stated again, ADA compliance is a big one, those inclusive playground options and events. And, you know, I was able to reach out to our, the guy that we work with, Ben, Rupert and Jones, and there are some kind of industry standards they look at. Those were mentioned in the report this month that you saw. But, you know, like in the K-3 playground, for instance, you know, there's 27 total play events. 17 of those are accessible events, you know, ground events for students. And there's some additional pieces there too, but, you know, ADA requires, you know, 2 of those to be considered an inclusive event. And we have multiple there for students. And the pre-K, very similar. I think there's 10 total play events. 6 of them are accessible events for all students, you know what I mean? And 2 is the actual required amount that you need to meet that industry standard. So we definitely are looking at ways to make sure that those designs and structures are accessible to a variety of students. One of the other conversations in relation to that is we had is, you know, maybe even looking at adjusting one of the play events, you know, as well, with something that's even more accessible that would maybe potentially be available to students in a wheelchair, just so they had that access. That's kind of a conversation that will come up in a little bit, because I want to talk about maybe just increasing that threshold a little bit, just to make sure we can have that included or something similar. But what you saw on there is there was basically 2 options that were listed. Those 2 playground options are listed up there. you know, in the proposal that you received. And there was also a couple of alternate proposals. Well, they were not really, they were just kind of 2 lines anyway, but you saw some different designs. So basically when we take a look at these structures, this is kind of the main pre-K one that we've had. This was an overwhelming winner. You know, really everybody enjoyed this piece. There's about 10 accessible events, it's got a bench, it's got some other kind of play events that are occurring. Another conversation that came up that we're looking at is a communication board as well. So basically we have quite a few students that have speech and language issues in the building. And so basically they would create this communication board which allows students with communication needs to be able to communicate with peers or with staff. That would be something that would be there at all times, wouldn't be temporary, it would be a
It would be almost like one of the side panels
Yeah.
of the structure.
yeah. And so we have we do have many nonverbal students or students that maybe are verbal but just really lack, you know, their articulation isn't great. And so this would be a way for them to communicate with peers and make it more inclusive there as well. So that's an exciting option. But this is kind of the pre-K section that we had, and there was a couple options here in regards to the K-3 playground structure, and those were really about 50-50, you know. So there were a lot of pros and cons on both. There's still a couple of design things that we're having some dialogue about. So what I really want to do tonight, and we're going to look at this alternate bid here in a minute, but it's to really look at more of approving a number, because we need to lock in a date and time. If we want to do this summer, we have to lock in, you know, ASAP, so that we could have the construction taking place then. And so we'll real quickly show you the alternate though. So one of the conversations that came up from the teachers was more swings. You know, we currently have, I think, 10.
We have 10.
One
of them
swings.
is an adapting swing.
Right, so there's 9 with the one piece there. When you go out to any recess, the swings are always full. There's kids waiting to swing. We gotta count to 50 when we get there. Not in kindergarten, we're counting to 10 maybe several times, right? So we'll kind of get to 20 by the end of the year, maybe on some, depending on level of development. But so basically, you know, originally it was going to look kind of something like this. So this was kind of the direction. When I spoke to the designer, we wanted to find out more ways to get swings involved. So right now there's 10 swings. They were able to provide an alternate bid and really add several more swings to the space. So you can see there's 2 adaptive swings. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 normal, and then so that last piece at the bottom, kind of a diamond with a circle inside of it, almost like, you know, looks like kind of like a diamond. Anyway, that actually is a 4-person swing, and so actually 4 people can be on that at once. So you really are looking at about 16 individuals being able to access. So those are 16 new play events as opposed to the 6 that we currently have. You know, so all those opportunities are great to get kids moving. Swinging is a huge sensory thing, just like we talked about the synthetic grass, another sensory piece. You know, that's large for our young learners. So first, I guess I want to ask you, do you have questions about designs and options and so on here? We've, like I said, we've tried to get a lot of feedback from community members about some of these additions and changes, and I will say they were very positive and constructive, which were good. So I was very thankful for that. You know, there are still a few small things that we want to really, you know, make sure we have exactly what we want, but we know we really need to have an approval tonight so that we can get things going and scheduled and ready to go for end of May. So what I had originally was to kind of take a look at, you know, approving, you know, up to 600 for that project. You know, I'm wondering if we could just bump up to 625. I don't know if we'll need it, but we've had a conversation about one of these new playground pieces. I don't want to be in a situation where we're $5,000 away from providing this additional opportunity. Hopefully we stay under the 6, but it may push up a little bit. I just want to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room.
Just don't tell them that.
I won't. I'm not going to say anything about that. So I'm just going to let, that's us. That's an us conversation, except we're on live stream, so hopefully he's not watching. And he may be, actually, because he emailed me before,
We'll see
you
if he
know.
texts you in a second, I'm watching.
Yeah, yeah.
This would
So,
also allow us, if we had some issues with, when they started digging things up and we had.
it would give us a
more
little
ways
extra
to
wiggle
do it
room
as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Not,
And we may not even get to that point, you know, but I just want to kind of have that in there, just so when we start the project, we're in a good space. Like I said, we still have some time to do some more designing of a few small things, a few small tweaks. And I, you know, but we need to get this moving forward so that we can get it hopefully built this summer and kids come back in 26, 27 with an amazing new space to play.
And pretty clear consensus on which one you want to go with from the teacher to the community.
For the pre-K, easy. For K3, I think I want, like, we need to hash out the pros and cons, because it was really 50-50. I mean, everybody was kind of, the big thing, and I think you'll appreciate this, Dick, the big thing I heard from parents, which kind of surprised me, was as compared to the pre-K playground, they really want more risk-taking opportunities in the K3 playground. Not those huge metal slides, but they do want more challenging events, I guess, or opportunities in that.
real
space.
lava?
What's that?
Real lava?
But there were some comments about the elevation and about they like the taller one to provide more elevation.
They appreciated the climbing opportunities and the rope and just the ability to develop core strength. And I mean, it aligns with everything we're learning about kids and technology right now and how they're really just hooked to their devices and not up and moving, not developing core strength, and not using their muscles in the way that kids, when we were kids, were doing. And so parents, I think, are more aware of that, and they just made comments about, like in that survey as well, you know, we really want to make sure that it's not too low to the ground and it's not too babyish. So I think, you know, when we look at it, the big thing for me is that accessibility. So I mean, if one really stands out more than the other as far as accessible events, that I would lean that way. But I mean, I think the durability piece is important too. You know, there's ropes on both of the options, so you know, we just really need to be thoughtful about like what will upkeep of those look like, and how will that look, you know, in the future. But I mean, I think either one of them, to be quite honest, I think our teachers are just really excited to have them. And our kids are thrilled. Like the third graders are like, we have to go to the junior high. Like, I mean, they do get into playgrounds different when they're what they're used to. So it'll be new to them. Do you have a preference there?
No.
Okay.
I feel like there were things on each one, I'm like, can I just pull these things
Yes.
together, because it'd be
Yes.
perfect. But I have to agree, anytime I'm at recess, they're all like, let me show you this trick, let me climb to the top of this metal structure and show you this. So, I mean, that's what the kids like to do. So everything I was looking is like, where is like a monkey bar type thing? That's what they love, or those 3 bars that are at different lengths. They'll stand on those and flip down, and I mean, a ton of kids do that.
Yeah.
You have the kids that swing, but then you have the risk takers.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think it's good. It's great for their body awareness.
Yeah.
That's great.
And development,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I think I like the taller one with the big tapestries or whatever over the top, whatever those are called, awnings or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's wear out in no time in direct sunlight.
Well, I think they might be metal though. They almost look like they. Well, I don't know. We can find out if they're. I didn't think they would be mesh.
I think the one is mesh, I believe the other one is a hard plastic.
Yeah.
I think mesh is a terrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my opinion. Over the last year, but shade was also a big.
Shade is important.
A big piece too. Yeah.
Trees would be cool. Takes a long time. But
Yeah.
That's phase 2, Sig. Okay.
Are there any other questions, comments, concerns? If not, I need a motion and a second to approve the pre-K and K3 playground proposal up to $625,000 from Vernon Jones for Blue Ridge CUSD number 18 as presented.
so moved.
A second.
David and John.
Jason Nolan,
Yes.
Sig Inger,
Yes.
David Harris,
Yes.
Jonathan Larson,
Yes.
Josh Hahn,
Yes.
Jonathan Yeagle,
Yes.
Francie Miller.
Yes. Up next is board policy press 120.
All right, so this is actually just a kind of a repeat from last month. You had your first reading last month, really. We talked about kind of those three main policies that were there. Sorry, I'm trying to get to that. The first one is related to board committees. That was a conversation that came up earlier in the year. We had noticed that we do have a committee that has over 3 people, and we did that because we do feel like there are times when we have expertise or we have people upon committees that are going to be valuable and help in decision making, not decision making, we're just kind of sharing ideas and perspectives. So what we're looking at in 2150 for committees is moving away from that committee should be no more than 3 to proposed language of committee shall generally consist of no more than 3 members, but may include additional board members as needed. So there may be situations where we include additional people that we need. So that's one. The other 2 really, no really big updates at this point. 660 with some of the curriculum content, a lot of those adjustments are there just due to some legislation or law things. At this point, there's no kind of major pieces at this point that we're aware of. And then for 7150, agency and law enforcement requests, that's just, obviously that is something that has been approved. I think that started as of January 1, but we have until 7/1 to develop procedures when law enforcement come to the building to communicate, contact, look at records, anything related to that. We'll develop procedures for that.
Any questions or comments? If not, I need a motion and second to approve press 120 policies for Blue Ridge CUSD number 18 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Larson, Yeagle.
Sig Inger,
Yes.
David Harris,
Yes.
Jonathan Larson,
Yes.
Josh Hahn,
Yes.
Jonathan Yeagle,
Yes.
Jason Nolan,
Yes.
Francie Miller.
Yes. Up next, change order for Brooke.
All right, this is a conversation we actually talked about during our facilities committee meeting. And so there was a change order. I mean, just to go back, I mean, this project, I believe, was in the summer of '24. So this has been several, a couple of years ago, basically. So there was a change order that came about. It was approved a while back when it was first obviously put into place. Due to mostly there was an insulation issue at the high school level. I think there was only like 1 inch and there had to be some standards like 3 to 5, something along that area. So that's kind of makes up that major portion. The reason I'm bringing you this today is because, you know, this project was completed, but unfortunately the CFO of the company, I think I put CEO, but it's actually CFO, actually passed away suddenly. And was the one that was in charge of getting out invoices and a variety of other things. And so this was delayed until late September, after, you know, the budget had already been created. So I had no idea that this was still outstanding. And so when we got that bill from Mr. Wachter, we just want to make sure we approved the change order. We talked about it. It was a needed adjustment. Those things were approved prior to, but this is kind of finalizing and formalizing just the event.
Anything? We're very quiet tonight. If we have no questions or comments, I need a motion and a second to approve the HLS roofing project change order from summer 2024 for Blue Ridge CUSD number 18 as presented.
So moved.
Jason?
Second.
Oh, man. It's like the battle of the Johnsons here.
Give it to Larson.
Larson.
David Harris,
Yes.
Jonathan Larson,
Yes.
Josh Hahn,
Yes.
Jonathan Yeagle,
Yes.
Jason Nolan,
Yes.
Sig Inger,
Yes.
Francie Miller.
Yes. Up next is bus leases.
All right, last month we talked about bus leases. We have to get 2 new buses for this upcoming year. We talked about kind of the differences between the Bluebird and International. After that conversation last year, I really felt like International was the way to go. We talked about those 5-year leases. We even talked about diesel. Those seem to be the most quality buses, had less issues with them. We even had a driver here that shared that she enjoyed those International buses as well. Anyway, the conversation that we really led to is at the end, you know, do we want to go just front dash AC, which is kind of AC for the driver only, or do we want to look at a bus that has full AC? So I kind of broke those numbers down there. You can see a 5-year with just a dash AC cost per year multiplied by 5 gives you that number, multiplied by the 2 buses. So you can see everything that's listed there. Basically, what's interesting about it, there's really only an $18,000 difference between 2 front dash buses and 2 full AC buses. So, I mean, it's kind of a conversation we could touch base on. You know, I talked with Deborah a little bit and some others just trying to look at, you know, and Jonathan actually had a question too, you know, what's the gotcha? I mean, it's like $18,000 more, but you have full AC. And I don't know exactly. My one concern would possibly be, obviously there's gonna be a little bit more maintenance and upkeep because there's an AC across the whole building, or not the building, the whole bus. Number 2, if something goes wrong, you know, it could be more expensive because it's, you know, it's an AC that covers the whole bus. I mean, I'm not sure. It's probably the same unit that pushes out. So it's, you know, it is a limited warranty with that AC piece. So that's the other component of it. But it does provide AC. We do have a lot of like football and volleyball and golf, some of those fall sports, you know, and it gets hot during those times. There's even situations too sometimes when it's a really hot day potentially. You know, it's one of them is going to be a route bus, one will be a spare bus for next year that'll be used throughout the year. But we had talked about if it's a full AC, do we utilize that for, you know, extracurriculars on those warm days? Do we utilize it after school on certain days when it's hot? Somebody can take that bus instead of their normal bus because it's going to provide kind of a cooler climate. We do have a few students that do have some heat tolerance issues. And so, I mean, from time to time that can be supportive in ways. It's really just kind of, you know, do we want to spend that extra money to provide the full AC? We've never had full AC before. I guess we would kind of see if we could go that direction, look at it and see how it works out, and then maybe moving forward, that's an investment we do all. When we start to move all of our buses to AC buses, so our whole fleet is, or maybe we say, hey, this is putting too much issues, I mean, it's having too much cost. We just say we're going to go back to the front dash moving forward. So just kind of wanted to get your thoughts and see if you had any suggestions, ideas, recommendations.
I think for the price difference, let's go with the full AC, especially since we're taking the football team almost all the way to St. Louis.
Yeah.
And we're not always guaranteed it's going to be cool weather during that time.
Yep.
Early game, it can still be pretty hot. Track team's going to be going.
Yeah, spring, yep, baseball.
And you mentioned heat tolerance. We occasionally have a transportation IEP where that's required, and it might be to our advantage. Well, we can put them on a regular bus rather than send a van to pick that child up because we're going right by their bus and play.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm strongly in favor of some full AC buses. The reason you gave these distances we're covering now for these games, and it's miserable. And the front air conditioning, I had a bus that had that once with dash, but it didn't go through the defroster like a car would or a truck.
So you still have
So
fans on the
it
windscreen?
didn't help a bit in that downpour that you always have at 3:20 in the afternoon to defrost your windshield. So, you know, it made it feel a little bit better up front.
I think it's worth a trial period.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
issues.
I had a question.
Yes.
What was the price difference between the 5-year lease and the purchase price? 'Cause I thought we were looking at, we talked about that last time. And it was negligible.
It wasn't a huge amount, but the issue was, that's typically when we talked about, that's when maintenance issues really occur after the 5 years. And they did not have a large resale value at that point either.
Yeah, what was the price difference was pretty minimal.
I don't
That's
remember
what I
what
was-
the
is it
purchase
in-
versus the lease. I remember us
Okay,
talking
asset
about
value.
lease.
Is it like 25 to 30,000 or something?
Was that much more?
I thought it was, I'm going off memory from that, but.
I don't know if I have
I
that.
like the
warranty
idea of
stuff, that's why.
owning our buses, but I also feel like if we were to go that way, we need to invest in a mechanic.
Especially if they're gonna be older, because the deal with those, they're still covered for the
They're-
second.
they're all
totally-
warranted.
It's all warranted.
5
Yeah,
years.
5 years.
So the only difference is,
Why not
I think slightly more, I think it was a small amount more. And then you have a bus, and then you start to wonder when everything's gonna go to, you know, on you. it's resale.
Or it's your backup.
Your backup.
Yeah, and I don't have the answer to that. I mean, we've traditionally leased the last few years, I believe, and that's kind of been something that we've gone with. You know, with these being AC buses, you know, do we want to get full AC? Do we want it leased for the next couple of years, or with these next two, and then do we want to look into purchasing long-term after that? You know, for other buses that we encounter. And
Well,
that's-
Francie had mentioned, pardon me, in a previous meeting, that the leases have saved us a huge amount of money.
It only saves us money if you include the fact that there is no value in the bus at the end of 5 years. And that's as a backup bus or anything else. Just me doing the research that I've done on this stuff, you really have to get a bus to last 8 years before you actually get the full value out of the bus. So if we are using, you know, whether it's a combination of lease versus own, or lease and own, you can keep newer buses on that lease, but if you wanted to buy the bus at the end of the 5 years, it's an insane amount of money that you still have to pay for that bus. It's more so than what you would have paid for at the beginning for buying the bus brand new. And then looking at the buying it versus leasing, the warranty is the same for both, for 5 years. So there's really no advantage on a leased bus as far as the warranty goes, whether we buy it or lease it. We're gonna save $15,000 to $20,000 possibly on leasing over that 5-year period, but then we start over again. So, but like I said, also having to have a mechanic, I mean, somebody who does more than just basic stuff.
We would need a full.
We're adding, it's gonna be a wash either way. But, I mean, one of the things that I like about at least owning some of our equipment is that we know where it was. We know all of the miles on it. So, but I think right now, without doing the other work, leasing is the option.
I mean, moving forward, we can look at buying. We can do some additional research after this group, and I'm fine with doing that.
So having a mechanic on staff would come in after the 5-year warranty is up, and we have to either pay to get somebody to do it or do it on site?
Yes, and part of that is we still have to, even leasing it, we still have to do all of the regular
Basic
maintenance.
road maintenance.
Yeah, so oil changes, tires, everything else like that, that's all up to us. So we already have a mechanic that does some of this stuff, and they keep our prices down by having that person in-house, but I think if you wanted to be able to do anything else, it has to be somebody who is more of a mechanic. So,
Or
I don't know.
full-time, you know,
Yeah.
if it's a bigger project.
I don't know what that looks like. I'm really good at taking things apart and having leftover pieces when I put them back together. The problem is that it still doesn't work, but that's why hiring somebody for that is, great.
I think it's definitely worth looking at all options. I know years back, I can't tell you what year we switched over, but we used to own, and then we moved towards leasing. When we owned at that time, our transportation fund was in very, very bad shape. Always way in the red, because the costs that were hitting us were way more than what we could even budget for at that time. So we went to a leasing model knowing this means we would always have new buses that would, you turn them over, you always then have a new bus. You knew what your cost, besides the regular maintenance, there were just, because at that time, I think that the fleet was problematic at best. And so the decision was made, and again, I don't know what year that was, I'm sure it's in the record somewhere when we switched, that we went to all leasing.
Would have been in 13 or 14.
That might be
Francie.
why I'm not remembering that.
It was after I started, and believe me, when
Yeah.
I started, we were driving junk.
Yeah, it was very bad. The transportation budget at that time, if you go back and look at those budget years, everything was red, always. I mean, so that's where that decision was to go that way. So it'd be interesting too, and I think at that time we had a mechanic on staff, but they still, what you had to do to try to keep a bus going past that because of the number of miles and stuff, it was a struggle. Now again, would that be different now? I don't know. Would it be worth having one bus that we own that is long-term and not all, the whole fleet? At that time, it was the whole fleet, and it was bad. And while it seemed weird to us, like, oh my gosh, all this money going out, it is crazy to me that every time I look at a budget, I'm like, gosh, it's still so weird to me that the transportation, you just aren't automatically like, oh, negative 500,000. Like, we were just very used to it being so in the red. I mean, I'm not talking a little in the red, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Josh looked it up, it was on the last board minutes, it's $25,000, the difference in leasing for 5 years versus purchasing. So it's another year's worth of payment, basically.
And I don't remember on this, it was if we were to purchase, was there a payment plan type thing, or was it, they wanted all that up front?
That's a great question. I'm not sure about
It
that.
wasn't out there.
I haven't
Wasn't
done that.
That wasn't on that.
Okay, I couldn't remember on that one, because that would make,
That would be
could make a
helpful to know.
difference too, obviously.
So, what would you like to do moving forward?
Like looking at purchasing option and see what the financing available is. If it's, if it's a 0% financing for 5 years or something like that, you can stretch that out. Then you can have your fund set up, and it's always going to be getting hit with the same amount anyway, so you're not going to have a huge deficit in the fund too. So it'd be easier to plan or something like that. But I don't know what they're going to be offering, of course.
Yeah, we can look into that. I definitely don't want to be in a position where we have really older buses that are operating and they're not good equipment for our students either, and drivers. So I want to make sure we have safe, well-maintained.
And we do that right now, our leases are staggered right now as well.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether we keep on with the leasing or we go with purchase, as long as we're staggering our
Should be able to keep
timing, we have new buses every year or two. It's just that you're not buying a whole fleet
every time.
all at the same time.
Okay.
Okay, so for today, though,
I think we're going to lease the buses.
okay, and we're wanting to do full AC, right? Because I have two motions, so I just want to make
I
sure.
think full AC.
Yeah, I'll be willing to make the motion for full air conditioning.
Okay,
That's like $10 a school day.
so I.
We're making these kids
Wait a
talk.
minute.
It's 180 school days in a year, right?
Okay, so I need a motion and a second to approve a 5-year lease for 2 diesel international buses with full AC for Blue Ridge CUSD 18 as presented, and I have David make that motion.
Second.
And Yeagle with the second.
Jonathan Larson,
Yes.
Josh Vaughn,
Yes.
Jonathan Gable,
Yes.
Jason Bowen,
Yes.
Zach Anger,
Yes.
David Harris,
Yes.
Francie Miller.
Yes. Okay, up next is new business school maintenance grant.
School maintenance grant. So not every year, but we've been pretty lucky the past couple of years. ISB has been offering a school maintenance grant for this current school year. And so basically they will match funds up to, for a project up to $100,000. So for instance, if we have a $100,000 project, we would pay $50,000 and the state would pay $50,000. And so one of the big projects that we have upcoming, obviously, is our playground project. And so I reached out to our regional soup from the ROE and asked him about playground surfaces and safety surfaces. And so he had said that we could utilize that for our school maintenance grant. And so that would help offset the cost of our playground project by utilizing some of this funding from ISB. So this grant that I will write, it's already been partially written. What you see is just kind of a basic overview, just kind of talks about the safety components of this new playground and the padding that it provides for that space. And so if you guys approve this tonight, and basically I will complete the grant, I will submit it, and then hopefully we'll receive an additional $50,000 that we can utilize toward our playground project. Any questions about that?
So if we get it, would that be out of that 625?
Yeah, it's included in it. So I mean, I'm not spending this additional 50, so it's not 675 or anything. It's just 625 total. This is going to help offset our own district expenses within that threshold.
Okay.
Looks like a win.
I'll vote for that.
Okay, then I need a motion and a second to approve the school maintenance grant application for Blue Ridge CUSD number 18 as presented.
So moved.
Sig,
Second.
Larson,
Josh Hunt,
Yes.
Jonathan Yeagle,
Yes.
Jason Nolan,
Yes.
David Harris,
Yes.
Sig Eager,
Yes.
Jonathan Larson,
Yes.
Francie Miller.
yes. Up next, we have the high school FY27 course catalog.
All right, course catalog. So every year, we bring this, typically it's in the consent agenda, but we do have a new course. Paige and Lauren talked about it earlier with entrepreneurship. And so that'll be something that we're hoping to have for next school year, and I think it'll be a great opportunity for our students. So there could be a situation where I do bring this back in a future month. It would just probably go into the consent agenda, just to add those 2 education pathway courses. That would be continuations of the current courses that we started this year. But it just may be able to something we're able to provide next school. We're just not sure yet. We're still working through finalizing that. So if those do get approved, we may be bringing back this to be amended.
Okay. I need a motion and a second to approve the FY27 BRHS course catalog, including the entrepreneurship course for Blue Ridge CUSD number 18 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
That's Sid and Yeagle.
Jonathan Yeagle,
Yes.
Jason Nolan,
Yes.
David Harris,
Yes.
Sig Eager,
Yes.
Jonathan Larson,
Yes.
Josh Hunt,
Yes.
Francie Miller.
Yes. Up next is the HLS tuck pointing project.
Okay, so once again, this conversation came up. So today is really a consideration for going out to bids for the tuck pointing project. Obviously, it's a project that needs to take place both at Snyder and at the junior high at the Mansfield building. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, from just tuck pointing to some structural things that need to be done, to plaster. I mean, this is all included in this one space. It actually says down there estimated for the $492,000. That's actually, I should say, is less than what's estimated on the HLS survey. When I went back and kind of took a look there, initially that work was well over $550,000, so it actually came under. It actually, if you look at that bid sheet, it says anywhere between $450 and $500. So we'll kind of see where those bids come in, and we'll kind of know kind of what we're on the hook. This money is here. This money was bonded for a long time ago, so it's sitting in Fund 90 or HLS account. So we will just utilize current in-district money and fund balances to pay off the project. Hopefully it'll be done this summer is the plan. We'll actually go out for bids next week if everything's approved tonight.
Any questions? If not, I need a motion and a second to approve going out for bids for the BRSE and BRIJHS HLS tuck pointing project for Blue Ridge CUSD 18 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Jason and Josh.
Jason Nolan,
Yes.
Sig Eager,
Yes.
David Harris,
Yes.
Jonathan Larson,
Yes.
Josh Hunt,
Yes.
Jonathan Yeagle,
Yes.
Francie Miller.
Yes. And we're going to jump to good of the cause before we go into close, real quick.
Okay, so good to the cause. First one up there was we have BRIJHS arrival dismissal. That's kind of how we categorized it. But let's see, Mr. Huddleston, myself, Mr. Wooling, and Mrs. Cole Ross met at the village last week. Man, it seems like a long time ago. Anyway, we met last week. They called to set up a meeting. They'd recently done and worked with an engineer to take a look at McKinley Street. And so what it appears is they're looking at moving McKinley Street from a one-way to a two-way street. And so we met, had some dialogue. They shared an engineering report, which is what you see in your board book this week. I think the dialogue, there's a couple of things kind of going on there. Number one, I think they're looking at moving to a two-way road. We've utilized a one-way for quite some time. It's only used during arrival and dismissal times. Personally, I think a one-way road is safer, but that's just my own experience working with students. Anyway, no matter what takes place moving forward, and we had some dialogue about, if it is, either way, if it stays as a one-way road, we would need to look at some additional signage, maybe some lighting. There's options of things like a crossing guard. I mean, there's a lot of things that have been talked about in the conversation that's gone on. One thing that's in our immediate control is that based on the report, we wanted to look at just our arrival and dismissal procedures as well at Mansfield. You know, they've been very similar for many years. You know, obviously once the old Mansfield building was torn down, it changed a little bit, but what's kind of unique about our space over there is that the main parking lot is really across the street from the building. And so kids, a lot of the times are having to walk across the street to get to the parking lot, which is not ideal in any way, shape, or form, right? So we've had some dialogue, and Bert, feel free to jump in whenever, but I think, you know, we're really on board. We're just kind of saying, how can we update our practices? Are there things that need to be updated to create a safer spot for our students if they dismiss? You know, whether that's where our bus lane is or where our pickup lane is, and just really spending some time to analyze that and see what we can do moving forward. Bert, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think, you know, by having a one-way at that hour and a half before and an hour and a half after, you know, it gets kids in the routine of watching that flow of traffic. I think when you're adding flows from both sides, then, you know, if you're including that space and our kids getting picked up and dropped off, it certainly adds some safety. So one of the possible solutions we might look at is, can we achieve both bus and car pickup on our property and avoid using the street? And just by making some changes from all kinds of issues, even looking at staff parking. Yeah. So we're looking for lots of ideas, and we're going to put a lot of heads together, and with the ultimate goal of making sure our kids are safe.
I think, you know, I think Mansfield is trying to take some action maybe around March area, kind of figuring out what to do with that street, whether they want to keep it one way, whether they want to move it into a two-way. And so I really just wanted to bring that to you guys today and just kind of let you know.
And I'll add that, you know, I think one of the things that was comforting to know is they would wait until the end of the school year to make those changes. And, you know, that would give us some time to create a new plan and figure out, I mean, with new routines, that comes new training for both students and parents. So that's another piece of that.
Yes, very much so.
Have there been any accidents or anything with?
Not directly on our, not in that area. We did have a student have an accident on a bicycle a bit farther off of our property. So
On a road that was going two-way.
That was a one motion.
Yeah, that was pretty far. Any other thoughts or questions from the board? I think, you know, they're wanting us to have some type of response in regards to, you know, whether we support looking at a two-way or whether we look at sticking with a one-way and providing some support financially for some certain things. There's still a lot of dialogue, I think, that needs to take place, but I'm no engineer and I'm no traffic study, you know, person by any means. You know, from the report I saw, it didn't seem like they were saying it had to be changed into a two-way. It's just, it seems more like a preference, more so than, you know, a specific you must, you know, so.
Is there a crossing guard in Mansfield?
No.
And that is one of the notes on there, is that there are 2 crosswalks and they are loosely, I mean, it's just lines on pavement. But no, and this is nothing against anybody in our communities. We are not trained to use crosswalks because we don't have the traffic, we don't have the volume. But that is a school control that could be worked on from our side alone that would potentially help. I don't know what we would do, but that is at least a trainable solution.
Yeah. And I think that's what we want to do as a building. I mean, you know, as a district, we want to look at what can we control to make it a safer space for our students, right? And that's what we want to. We know we can do that. I don't know, you know, as far as what happens with the street itself. That's really not specifically in our control. But I think the village is really willing to work with us and have that dialogue so that we can create the safest, you know, arrival and dismissal possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, reading this report, it sounds like the engineer pointed out that some parents, and maybe they think they're like circumventing because the signs that say one way during these hours are when you come right over the railroad tracks there, you can see the signs. But then if you're in the parking lot, and I guess if you came in the parking lot a different way, then you can't see the sign. So I mean, I could definitely see like if the district needed a sign that read the same, that's on that road going south, that when you pull out of our parking lot, it's telling you, hey, during these hours, you can't turn right, you can only turn left. That I could see, you know, us putting something there to educate them. Again, how'd you get in the parking lot? You clearly saw the sign, but maybe you forgot when you sat there for a little while waiting for your kids. So I could definitely see that, that we could help with.
Yeah,
I personally feel like a one-way during that time helps, because kids just don't look. I mean, that just is what it is, and it's scary that you would think that something bad would happen, like it changes and then something happens, like, I don't know.
And I don't know the streets in Mansfield, unfortunately, in that area, but are they recommending maybe possibly switching the flow? It says from South to Oliver, or is that the current way?
I think it's meaning they just want to make sure it goes down far enough. Oliver is like right after the railroad tracks.
Okay.
It's the very first road you come to, so like the north end of the school.
Gotcha.
And I think south,
Is that next street?
is it the next street with one down? So I think it's a little, because I think the confusion comes because there's that alley that comes into our parking lot, to make it clear that it's past that. Like, you can't turn off of the alley and go right. It's supposed to be the whole way is one way.
Yeah. And why, I'm always curious about this, I'm not trying to start anything, but like, why isn't it one way as you come over the railroad tracks, go up to the school rather than have to go all around and come back?
I think it's because that way the passenger side is on the school side. Because if not, the passenger side would be on the opposite, and then every kid getting off the bus or
Yeah.
getting out of the car would have to cross the street. So
Gotcha.
your goal is to come with, like here at Schneider, when you pull up, passenger side is facing the school. And so at Mansfield, you have to head north to have the passenger. So it is, if you're
Yeah,
coming
no,
that
that
way.
makes more sense, because yeah, I mean, but if it was one way the other way, you know, that would just be a
It's
normal flow, but I
interesting.
get what you're saying. I was just always been curious.
Yeah.
So.
I think there's a lot of different options. I mean, you could do traffic patterns in a variety of different ways. You know, we even talked about utilizing, you know, that huge parking lot that we have across the street. Can that be utilized for traffic flow, you know, and for waiting? I mean, there's a lot of conversation I think that needs to take place and a lot of things we can look at. Just kind of want to put this on your radar that it's something that we are going to explore, because I think there's a lot of variables and things that could take place. Okay.
Makes sense.
And then our last conversation, real quick, early out teacher collab. So this is something that actually has started last school year, at the beginning of the year, maybe even before, to be honest. It was a conversation during ILT, instructional leadership team, over and over again. We had some dialogue about, maybe not over and over again, but we had it about a couple of times. You know, I presented at PR Connect last year about the topic. And then this year, we've continued to have dialogue just about looking at some type of a maybe 1 o'clock, you know, 1:30 dismissal. Not really sure. We have some more work to do there, but probably around 1, so we have 2 full hours of instruction after release time. Not instruction, but planning and collaboration. But looking at once a month doing an early dismissal that allows teachers to have additional time for collaboration. So we have a lot of mandates and things that are taking up a lot of our in-service days and other days, and just kind of looking at ways that we can provide more common planning time. And when I say common planning time, that's things like looking at curricular alignment, and then even moving even deeper to having dialogue and analyzing data, looking at assessment data, determining where are we now, what do we do next, when we have problems, how are we adjusting instruction, just having some continuous dialogue. It's going to look different for whoever's in it. You know, our counselors maybe be having more conversation about social emotional learning or interventions and groups and so on. But we know that we're taking away some instructional time, but the goal is that you're providing teacher work time to really create stronger lessons, analyze data, so we have better student outcomes on the back end. But I wanted to kind of share this with you. I wanted to kind of bring it to you. get some thoughts, and then we'll kind of share a few more details.
I would like to see a single building schedule for a semester, just see what that looks like.
Okay.
And I
I mean, as far as the breakdown of each day?
Yes, I mean,
It's 2 hours.
some of it, I'm guessing like 2 out of the 4 weeks you guys are, what is it, once a month?
Once a month, yeah.
So maybe 2 out of those 4 months you have something school-wide, and then maybe something it's just building-wide, or I just want to see what your goals are, or what everybody's goals are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, back in the end, it comes down to that goal number 1, student achievement, right? And our goal is to look at how are we utilizing how are we utilizing data to drive instruction, right? And so that's going to be a big component of it. But yeah, I think that's a great look, and we can look at buildings, developing something that would kind of show what would, you know, a semester look like, maybe what would a day look like during those 2 hours, and then what would a semester look like for those kind of that, I guess, that planning in advance.
And how many, what do you call them? PD days, or PD days, professional education days, or?
PD, professional development.
Professional development. How many professional development days are there every month? 1?
Every month?
Well, yeah, is it once a month?
No, not quite.
We have, in August, we have curriculum day and a teacher institute day. In September, we have school improvement day. October, we have a teacher institute day. January, we have a curriculum day. February, we have an institute day. April, we have a school improvement day. And then in May, we have our final teacher institute day.
About once a month.
That's after school. I mean, the ones in August are before school, and the ones in May are after school.
I mentioned it before when I was talking to Ryan, but now since we're in a meeting, I like the kids to be in the classroom with the teachers. Hard to give them an education if they got the afternoons off. I understand the incentive though, I like I understand where you're coming from with the data-driven points and collaboration, everything makes sense. So anyways, my great idea was how about like tack 3 days onto the end of the year to make up for all the time. And I was told that would not be well received.
That would not be long.
If you should come visit the high school like mid-May and see where everybody's brain is.
You know, it's a good call. We'll start it sooner. I've got multiple ways
yeah.
to fix this.
August 1st, let's roll. August 1st.
Back it up.
We're already starting earlier.
You're
So,
right.
yeah, somebody makes what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but you know, and from the very beginning of this conversation, when we even started talking about early dismissal, number 1, the conversation was this time has to be just as valuable as direct instruction, or if not valuable. And so this is something that we want to see work and go well. There's going to be some dialogue about what does collaboration look like, and there's going to be some training in that area as well. It's not going to come out and automatically everybody is able to have these in-depth conversations and dive into instructional strategies and have dialogue. Sometimes that just doesn't take place in every area. Sometimes teaching can be done in isolation. Sometimes there are teams that work really well together. Our goal, obviously, is the idea. I mean, we talk about collective teacher advocacy. When we start to develop and identify problems as a team, we have to have dialogue to be able to come up with solutions to that. This provides more time for that type of a model to take place more consistently. Adding days at the end of the year, not student attendance days. Adding days as far as PD and so on, we've done that in the past, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. There's also a lot of value in the diagnostic information and conversations that happen throughout that month that can impact instruction for the next week or 2 or more until we meet again at our next PD day. Like there's just a lot of things that I see a lot of value in, and our teacher teams and leadership have seen a lot of value in. But there is going to be some work to make it effective, right? And so that'll be a lot of the planning and things that take place over the next, many months.
As far as logistically, is it going to be the first Wednesday of every month, or something that's trackable so that?
Yes, it would be something consistent. Yes,
having
it's going to be the third Wednesday or the second Thursday, or yes, it's going to be something.
Like,
and then the goal would be is that it would be on our school calendar before it goes out now.
Right.
So people see that and they know in advance these are days. That's also the conversation about after school programming. So that's why we met with the Y and Ronnie. And he's on board with working with us to create an after-school program to support families. So we do have a survey that we will, kind of the next steps in gathering information in this planning process to see who needs access to after-school programming. So we can help support any family that would not be able to, that needs assistance there. Another very tertiary, thing that's beneficial is that we have a lot of kids that miss days
That's
of
exactly where I was
instruction
going.
because of dental appointments and vision appointments and just a variety of things. And if we have consistent days built in with those times off, those would be opportunities for families to do those appointments on those days in advance, because we want to give that information early. So they are missing less direct instruction throughout the school year. So that's another component.
Yeah, that's where I was going, just having that memorable, it's the third, whatever, then okay, we need to schedule this.
Yeah.
Let's look at that, because, trying to keep the kids in the stadium, as we all have said, and just in my house, I have two that are here in the high school, and it seems like they always have some appointments, so we're trying to schedule them around school.
Did anything else? I was trying to think if there's anything else.
I just say, I've heard it explained almost like what Ryan was talking about. When we're thinking about kids and we're thinking about data, you can look at it as an autopsy or you can look at it as a biopsy. And so when we are waiting until the end of the year to talk about what kids are doing, that's more of an autopsy. Like, it's too late to fix it.
No, I mean, I'm more concerned about the educational time in the classroom. So I'm not talking about Teacher Institute days or anything at the end of the year. I'm talking about extended school year for
I
children.
understand,
Yeah.
More of like a balanced calendar approach. Like where you would extend, maybe have a shorter summer, and you would extend in June and bring it back.
Yeah.
Sonny, do they do this at Muhammad?
The early release days?
Yes.
Yes, and they are, I think, the third Wednesday. I think one of the advantages is our teachers are so pressed for time during the day to talk to one another and collaborate together. It's not reality. Like by the time they make their copies and go to the bathroom, they have 10 minutes left and they can't have a conversation around like, hey, I just did this lesson and it was a total flop. Have you taught it yet? Because I need some help figuring out what to do. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So giving this time, I think it'd be benefit. Ryan hit it on the head. If you're taking instructional time away from kids, whatever you're replacing it with needs to lead to the same or better outcomes for those kids as it would if they were in the classroom. So I think your request of, or I don't remember who wrote that, Jason maybe, of seeing kind of like an outline of what that might look like over time. I think that's a great request.
We could just take another minute on passing period, and that would make up for the 2 hours.
No, that's an interesting point, Josh.
Save that
We're
one
just
for
full
another
of great
one.
ideas tonight.
I know it.
So,
And by we, I mean that end of the day.
so next steps, do you want me, I guess a couple of questions. Are you good with me releasing a survey talking about this as an option that we're looking at to see, just like to get, information from the community about who needs this support? And then we'll bring back some information next month to kind of identify what that will look like in each building?
Support as far as like after school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
okay,
correct.
gotcha.
And those days where it's going to be with early hours, 1 o'clock.
Probably, yeah, and we'll tweak with that a little bit. We want to kind of have 2 full hours of time to sit down and have a conversation and dialogue. If you do a 1:30 dismissal, then you still have another 20 plus minutes of kids getting dismissed and picked up and so on. So if we can be done by around 1 and they've already eaten lunch, everybody's eaten by that time, that gives us 20 minutes or 30 minutes. If hopefully it shouldn't take that long, but sometimes things happen, and but that gives us really from 1:30 for sure to 3:30 of uninterrupted time, if not 4. So we'll just kind of look at and determine what that looks like. But yeah, that's kind of the model that's there. But we can come with specifics next time too about day, when that is, et cetera, kind of more details.
I think it's helpful maybe for people to see, because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I would think what happens in August because you don't even have anything yet. Like,
everything.
what schools that do it,
Not
you know,
just
is
this
there
thing,
one in
but a lot
December
of it.
because you're out for part of the month, or probably
Yeah.
not in August,
Yeah, you should
probably not in
have one in
May.
August.
Well,
Right.
August would be a great time to unwrap it.
So it's
really
like-
dive into like, what are your reasonable weeks of learning and all that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but it's like, what do those days look like for other districts that do it? Like, does it start in August, like they just got going and now next week they're having early, you know, like,
Right.
it's literally the second week of school?
Right.
How does that look, I think?
Mhm. Yeah, we can put together a list of dates for next school
Of
year.
how that would
What
look.
that would be. Absolutely.
Because I know I've seen it on other districts' calendar, but I haven't
Yes.
paid enough attention to it. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
which months do they do it in? Like, is it every single month, or is it, just thinking from a parent perspective?
yeah.
And if you have the Y coming in.
Yeah, there are districts that do it weekly. You know, have a late start or early release. There's some that do it 2 times a month,
Especially
there's some
some
1
high
time a
schools
month,
in
some
Champaign,
0.
I think, they,
Yeah.
because my coworker, I know when her son was still in high school, they had late start once a week. I think it was Wednesdays for her son, because she was always like, I need to come in late, he's never gonna go to school if I'm, you know, if I leave the house or something, so it was like, okay.
Decatur Public also does it, I don't know what day of the week.
Okay.
Another question, so if we did have somebody coming in and watching the kids after school style, who's paying for it? By us, right, the school district, to watch those kids, or would it be the parents?
Not necessarily. We could look at that. That's actually been a conversation that was brought up during our meeting. There are a lot of districts that utilize, so we have such a high poverty rate in our district that we receive additional title money to support programs like after school. And so we could really look at, are there ways to offset some of the cost of families by utilizing some district funds that we receive through title funding, which is meant for supporting students that are, you know, not always poverty, but in situations. So that would be an option that we could utilize some district funds to offset some of those costs of families. They could pay partial, we could pay partial, we could pay it all, they could pay, I mean, there's a lot of options to go with there.
And it would all be on-site?
Yes.
So if, I mean, what would, then the parents be responsible for pickup instead of busing after?
Yes.
Okay.
So we would bus normal kids home the way that we do, like at a 3:10 time, but at 1 o'clock. You know, it'd be a normal dismissal process, but then those kids that stayed for the after-school program, they would be picked up by parents.
Okay.
At this time, that's what we kind of talked about.
I was just kind of wondering, what if they all stay?
Well, that'll be a whole different conversation and dialogue. That's why we want to send out the survey, because we really want to see how many kids does this really impact. Do we have enough space at the Snyder cafeteria? You know, there's a lot of things that we need a lot of information to make an informed decision.
We can just put them out on the playground.
That's right.
Yeah, same.
And, you know,
Especially
you have 2
Friday.
people watching them?
Because it was cold.
Okay. All right, we'll work on bringing some more data, some more information next month. Okay, cool.
Okay. I need a motion, a second, to move from open session to closed session for collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or the representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, dismissal of specific employees at the district at 9:07.
So
I know it was giggle and I'm being sick. Sorry.
Steve Inger,
Yes.
David Harris,
Yes.
Jonathan Larson,
Yes.
Josh Hahn,
yes.
Jonathan Gable,
Yes.
Jason Nolan,
Yes.
Randy Miller.
Branson?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I stopped you.